I am your host, Danielle Mims. Welcome to Think Like a Kid, the podcast that helps parents and teachers stop guessing and start teaching the way kids actually learn. After working with hundreds of kids, I can promise you this: one-size-fits-all learning doesn't work. It's time to stop making kids fit the system and start shaping learning around the child. Each week, you'll get quick wins, creative ideas, and brain-based strategies to make learning hands-on and fun again. So whether you're in the classroom, the car, or halfway through your coffee, I am so glad you're here. Let's think like a kid. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Think Like a Kid. I'm so excited to be here with you, and just thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this podcast. Today, we're going to talk about back to school because a lot of us have kiddos that are back to school. It's that season where we're all getting back into routines and schedules, and it's like a bittersweet feeling. If you're anything like me, I love a good routine and schedule, but I also love a good summer where you don't know what time it is and you just kind of go through day by day. So a little bit of bittersweet over here. I have a first grader this year. He's my oldest and he's 6. And if you have a 6-year-old, you probably had your child, right, during the pandemic. So it's always like, how is my little pandemic baby? I had him March 31st of 2020. So 2 weeks after the world shut down. His first doctor's appointment as a newborn was in a parking lot. Like, it was bad. So if I have any other March 2020 baby moms out there, please connect with me. It's like a trauma I don't think I'll move past. I don't think I've fully processed it either. And then I'm like, how am I sending this kiddo, this baby, to first grade? It's just wild to me. Like, time just flies. Anyway, I do a lot of prep work with him before going back to school. I mean, he's away from me for 6 hours every day. He goes to a public school. And so we've been working a lot with him on, social skills, the things that matter the most of confidence and advocacy. And also with my other little guy, he is 4. So I'm teaching him with the STEAM Made Simple preschool curriculum that I wrote and built from the ground up. I am using that to teach him every day. And then I'm also sending him part-time to a private Christian school that also teaches Spanish. So I'm stoked about that. He's stoked about it. And my kids love their friends and they love being out of the house. So whether that's you too, or maybe you're in a co-op where they're able to socialize with other kiddos, it's just, they love it. However, my 4-year-old said something to me that stopped me in my tracks. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be my podcast episode because it's just a pretty cool story. And it relates back to giving our kids the tools that they need so that they're successful in these situations without mom and dad. So he started school and he's my wild child. So if you have a second born and they fit that like mold of, birth order, me too, especially if you have a boy. Like, he was born fearless. He could climb before he could walk. Like, he is my wild child. I am very interested to know what his career choice will be later in life because I pray it's not bungee jumping, but it's going to be something wild. Anyway, he started school and we talked about, meeting new friends. These are all new faces, all new teachers, all new building. We toured it. I took a lot of pictures and did the prep work that I normally do, which is taking pictures of all of his spots of what he will do so I could create his routine and talk about it at home. Did all of that. And then he finally had his first day of school and he was proud. He was excited. He was ready. He's just an amazing little boy. But he went and then, our time where we connect is after school, right? So I'm like, hey, how was your day? And he, unlike my firstborn, side note, doesn't tell me anything about school. My secondborn, he tells me like, oh, I went to my cubby and then I took my backpack off and then I put my snack right above and then we grabbed our water bottles and then we went inside and then we did a bathroom break and then like he goes through every step and I love it. I want to know everything. I just want to be a fly on the wall like the whole day. So anyway, we connected. He told me about his day and then our next one-on-one connection time was bedtime. And I am very intentional with my questions, especially at bedtime, because I get the most honest answers and I get them to open up at bedtime. I don't know when that time is with you and your kiddo, but bedtime it is for me. So I'm like very, careful and very intentional. I guess that's a better word for what I ask them during that bedtime. And so I asked him, I said, hey, if you could pick one moment of your preschool day that you felt most proud of yourself, what would it be? And he told me, and he said that, and the teacher did tell me too, and he said that he followed all the directions and he was the only kid to pick out of the prize bin because of how great his listening ears were. And I'm like, fabulous, so great. And we talked about it and we talked about his prize. And then I wanted to know what's something that makes him feel nervous inside that gives him, that butterfly feeling. And we've talked about that before. And I really wanted to know if there was anything nerve-wracking about his school day. And he said, yeah, there is. And I'm like, okay, buddy, like, what is it? I'd love to know. And I'd love to know, maybe mommy had that too. I just, what was something that made you feel nervous? And he said, well, I went out to recess and I saw all the kids playing and I wanted to play with a kid and I didn't know who would play with me. So I played by myself. And I'm like, my mom heart is just breaking because I'm just like, oh, he's such like he's a force, right? So like to see him, and he's really, really well behaved when he's not with me. Sorry, I'm going on tangents. When he's with me, the behavior is extreme, just like all my children. But when he's away from me, he is so well behaved, like top of his class or group or whatever. And so I was like, okay, well, what did you do at recess? And he goes, I just waited for kid to be looking around, looking for a friend. And I would go over and say, hey, do you want to be friends? Because we've practiced, going up to a kid and saying, do you want to be friends? And I'm just like, I just want to like give him a big hug and just tell him how awesome he is. And I was like, okay, so did you go up to anybody and ask? And he's like, no, everybody had a friend. Everybody's playing. You told me that there were kids that they don't know each other, but there are kids that know each other. And I'm like, yes, there could be families that, signed up. I'm like thinking in my head. And then I did see a picture of the class and I'm like, it is extremely girl heavy, right? So there's like 4 boys. So anyway, he's telling me these nerves and, what I want to say is, buddy, everyone would want to play with Kason. You are so amazing. You are so smart. You're strong. You're funny. You can do all these things. No one would say no to you, honey. That's what I wanted to say so bad. But that's not reality, right? And so I had to take my mom hat off for a minute and not tell him what I think of him and what God thinks of him. I had to tell him, put my teacher hat on. I've been a recess monitor. I've been a lunch supervisor. I know what happens on the playground and I know that kids are mean, right? That unstructured time is a little bit hard. And I'm not saying like a preschooler is going to be mean. Maybe they will, but most kiddos are at that age are just innocent and sweet. So I said, I validated his feeling. So his feeling was that he's nervous to ask somebody to play with them. And he told me the reason why he was so nervous is because he was scared they were going to say no. And I'm like, okay, that is scary. That is very nerve-wracking. Like, I mean, think about it as adults, right? Like, think about going up to someone. It's hard to make mom friends anyway, right? You're at a park and you just, I'll put myself in this scenario. I'm like always looking for friends, but say I'm at a park and then I see a mom and I'm like, oh, she has 3 boys too. I could be friends with her. Like, hey, would you ever want to get our kids together? And she like looks at my kids and just is like, no, but thanks anyway. Like that would be heartbreaking, right? And I'm in my 30s and I would still feel that rejection. It'd be so hard. So I get it. I can go down to his level and I can think like him, because if I can get my feelings hurt in my 30s, wow, a 4-year-old, that's a big, scary task to put yourself out there and then to wonder, will they say yes or will they say no? And so the reality is
is people will say no. He will be rejected. So I had to just say, validate it, right? You're feeling very nervous that you don't know anybody and that someone might say no if you play with them. And guess what? And he's like, what? And I'm like, that's going to happen. They are going to say no. Someone is going to say no to you. But the person who says no, you probably don't want to play with them anyway. And you know what? Maybe they were already playing a game. Maybe they want to play by themselves. You don't know. But if you keep going, someone will say yes, I promise. And that's like getting emotional just thinking about it. But that is a reality. If you keep going, you will find that solution. And I'm talking about friendships, right? But I'm also talking about other social skills and other academic skills. If you keep going, you will win. And that's the part that I wanted him to focus on is like, if someone says no, which most of the time they're going to say yeah, right? But if they do say no, it's okay. It will happen. It will happen to you in your life. The point of this is that you keep going, you go to the next one. And if you don't try, you're not going to meet that friend that God designed for you to have in preschool, right? And I really thought it was a good little lecture that I gave, And he's like, no, I will not do that. I am just going to go to school tomorrow and I am going to go to recess and I'm going to look around and wait until someone's looking around and then I will run over and I'll be like, hey, are you looking for a friend? And I'm like, okay, buddy. Yeah, it's a good plan. And so as parents, you're kind of just like, all right, well, that didn't land. And that's what I thought. I thought that my little lecture was just in one ear and out the other. Mom's crazy. Like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And then I picked him up from school. And he got in the car and he said, Mommy, I decided to be brave today because we talk about bravery practices. It's like our whole motto for literally everything. So, and I don't know if I did a podcast episode on bravery. That would be a good one. Maybe I should do that next. Okay. So he was like, Mommy, I decided to be brave today. And I go, you did? How were you brave today? And I was not expecting it at all. And it was right before he got buckled in his seat. We're in the car and I'm like turning around, looking at him. And I'm so excited to hear about bravery stories. And he said, I went up to someone I wanted to play with at recess. And I go, you did? And he said, and I said, hi, I'm Kason. Do you want to play with me? I'm like, buddy, you did? Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. That must have taken a lot of courage and it probably felt very scary. He goes, yeah. And I'm like thinking to myself, and I'm like, and they probably said yes. And he goes, and they looked at me and they said, no, I don't want to play with you. And I'm like, who is this punk? No, I'm just kidding. But I was like, okay. And he goes, and I went to another kid and they said yes. And I just like held back tears. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. And I can't believe that this little lecture that I thought he didn't care about, that it actually landed and he applied it into his life. And so he went to that second kid and they got to play together. But if we go rewind back into our time when I was laying with him in bed and I said, hey, honey, everyone wants to play with Kason. Like, you're so great. And give him all the compliments like I normally do because he's a phenomenal kid. But if I did that and I didn't set the stage for failure, right, and for rejection, he would not have been prepared. And I'm like honestly shocked that a kid in preschool said no to him. Like most kids want to play. And I don't know this kid's situation. This kid could have, had a horrible day. This kid could have been a girl and didn't want to play with a boy, or this kid could have, wanted to play alone. Who knows? We don't know. That's out of our control. But what I know is that he took my advice and he took he expected the no. Right? He knew someone might say no to me one day. And of course, it had to be the first one, whatever. But I'm like, that's what makes this a good podcast episode, because if I didn't set him up for that, he might have been really hurt. But because he was like, okay, my mom said, well, if they say no, okay, I don't want to play with them anyway, probably. So I'm going to go find my friend that does want to go play with me. And he moved on and he had a great time at recess. And what a proud mom moment. You know what I mean? Like just those little things. It's like, oh, okay. Wow. This is just so awesome to witness and to watch these little moments blossom into who they are. And anyway, so if you are having those conversations with your kid, maybe they're nervous about asking someone to play like mine was, or maybe they're nervous about something else. Preparing them for not the best outcome is probably a good thing because you're setting them up for not having a perfect life. And at one point, they will run into an obstacle. And you don't have to start super young like I do, but I do. I truly believe that building resilience and confidence and perseverance starts when they're really little, right? And not making everything so curated and perfect and all of that. So I did write down some pointers for you to take away from this episode so that you can apply it. I wrote down that confidence, because I don't think this is actually taught enough in whether it's school or church or home or whatever, but talking to kids about confidence and that it's not walking into a situation knowing everybody is going to say yes to you. And it is not believing everything will work out exactly the way you want it to. Confidence, what it is, it's knowing that you can handle yourself when things don't work out the way that you want them to. And that's such a different skill, right? And I think that when we reframe confidence and we relook at what it really means, I do this with bravery too. I'll do it for the next episode, but that's a different skill because think about how often our kids are going to hear no, and they're going to face rejection throughout their lives, right? So my example was, can I play with you? Someone says no. Do you want to be my friend? Okay, maybe not. Can I sit here next to you? No. Did I make the team right when they're older? No. Like I can go back into my high school. I remember so excited to see if I made the cheerleading team. All my friends did. I was not on the list, right? That's a huge rejection, something that I feel like I blacked out like a ton of my childhood. I had a really great childhood, so I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't know why I can't remember a lot of things. But anyway, so did I make the team? Did I get the part? Did I get into the dream school that I wanted? No, right? Did I get the job? No. Did the person like me back that I had a crush on? No. Did this idea work that I tried? No. So we can't raise kids in a world where no one rejects them, right? Because honestly, I don't even think we'd want to because it's not the reality. What we can do is give them enough experiences with disappointment, with the feelings of frustration, mistakes, being nervous, rejection, that no stops meaning there's something wrong internally. We don't want them to think that when they hear that word no, that there's something wrong with them, right? I want to teach my kids is that when they hear no and they face rejection, that means, okay, I'm going to try the next thing, right? Like we're moving on to the next thing. We don't need to internalize and have these negative thoughts about ourselves. That's what I did to myself as a kid, right? So I know what happens when you internalize those negative beliefs, and that's the opposite of what I want to do with my kids. So I'm trying things a little bit differently, and that's preparing them and having these like role play situations and giving them phrases and tips and things that they can do when they do face those no's or those rejections. So I wrote down here, one thing for you guys who are listening to try this week. The next time your child tells you they're worried about something going wrong, I want you to resist the urge to immediately convince them that it won't. So instead, you could ask, okay, what could you do if that happens? And if they don't know, and if they're like, I don't know, like you would help them build a tiny plan. So kind of like what I did. So what if they say no? Well, my solution to Kason was you can go ask somebody else and we can role play that and go into details. Okay, what if they're nervous about like, I can't raise my hand? What if I don't know the answer? You can help them build a plan for, well, I can ask for help or I can use my tools, right? Giving them these ideas of what to do when they face that thing that makes them nervous. What if I make a mistake? Well, I know I can try again. You can give them an example of when they did do that so that they can hold on to that success. What if I feel nervous? I can take a deep breath and I can do things even though I'm nervous, right? That we talk about that a lot at home. Is even if things feel hard or if things feel scary, you can still do things scared. You can still do things while you're nervous. So we're not teaching our kids that bad, uncomfortable, or disappointing things won't ever happen. We're teaching them that those things can happen and how they can handle it and what they can do next so that they can build their resilience and their confidence and who they are. So I know this is a long one, and I hope that maybe you could take away something and apply it to your own kids at home or at school. And I just thank you so much for being here again and listening to my little rants and my little ideas and my little stories. So it means a lot, and I appreciate you more than you know. And I will see you next week. Keep thinking like a kid.
Thank you for listening to Think Like a Kid. If this episode gave you an idea, a reframe, or a little win, the best way to say thank you is to share it with a friend or leave a quick review. It helps more parents and teachers find these conversations, and honestly, it means the world to me. Until next time, friend, keep meeting kids where they're at and keep thinking like a kid.